A high-value Cuban whistleblower broke her silence through her own family after the arrest of Hades Lastres Morera in Miami. Sister of Ania Guillermina Lastres Morera, a brigadier general connected to the high economic command of the Cuban regime and a central figure in Gaza. This Saturday, May 23, 2026, the case is heating up because Marco Rubio has targeted her permanent residency. American agents are already holding her in custody. And her son, Ernesto Carvajal Lastres, showed up saying he can't talk to his mother and that she may be being held in isolation. This episode doesn't sound like a simple immigration problem. It sounds like Washington is finally stepping into the territory where Havana tries hardest to hide. The money, the properties, the businesses, and the relatives of a communist elite who live in comfort while the Cuban people face shortages, blackouts, and fear. What was Hades doing in the United States? Why did Rubio decide to act now? How could this arrest pave the way to target other names connected to the Cuban regime? Many people still believe that having a CNPJ, an Instagram account, or even a website domain already guarantees that the business name is protected, but that's not how it works. The truth is simple. The brand is only truly yours when it's registered with the NPI. Without this registration, any company can try to use the same name, challenge your brand identity, and even put everything you've built at risk. That's why MoveOn gets involved in this process. There are already more than 10,000 brands protected with 100% online service and operations in more than 17 countries. MoveOn has become a leader in trademark registration and is a company I fully trust. So don't wait for a problem to appear before you look for a solution. Protect your business name now. The link is in the description and in this QR code on the screen. Hades Lastres Morera was arrested by agents from Immigration and Homeland Security investigations in Miami. She is the sister of Ania Guillermina Lastres Morera, a brigadier general and executive president of Gaza, the military conglomerate that controls key areas of the Cuban economy. The arrest took place on May 21 and U.S. authorities state that Hades remains in custody. The order hits a sensitive point because Hades entered the United States as a legal permanent resident on January 13, 2023. The U.S. government states that there is no record of an application for U.S. citizenship or a United States passport. Marco Rubio revoked her permanent residency based on the assessment that her presence could pose a risk to the United States' foreign policy interests regarding Cuba. The statement that broke the silence came from her son, Ernesto Carvajal Lastres, an American citizen. He said he was unable to speak with his mother, stated that she was isolated, and mentioned that he was seeking lawyers to understand which law might have been violated. The family's tone was one of shock, but the case was not limited to family drama. The arrest became a political message from Washington against networks linked to the Cuban regime within Florida itself. Rubio said that Hades managed real estate assets and lived in Florida while also helping the communist regime in Havana. He stated that there will be no place in the United States for foreigners who threaten national security to live in luxury. The statement was significant because it came from the top U.S. diplomat, not a political commentator. The main point is that Washington is targeting the financial network, not just the last name. The Department of Homeland Security investigations stated that allowing Hades to remain in the United States would send the message that Hades, networks affiliated with the Cuban regime, could continue using American financial, educational, and social institutions. For the Trump administration, that door needed to be closed before it became a safe haven for people connected to those in power in Havana. The family connection matters because Ania Guillermina Lastres Morera holds one of the most powerful positions in the Cuban structure. She commands Gaza, a group linked to the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Cuba with a presence in tourism, banks, remittances, stores, hotels, logistics, and hard currency trade. Rubio has accused the conglomerate of operating as a state within a state, concentrating money and privileges while ordinary Cubans face shortages of food, medicine, fuel, and electricity. The case also gained traction because Hades appears to be linked to real estate businesses in Florida. Records cited in the news point to connections with companies such as Remas Investments LLC and Santa Helena Investments LLC, focused on real estate investments and the buying and selling of properties. Before leaving Cuba, she is also said to have managed tourist rental properties in Havana, including apartments listed on lodging platforms. The question that now hangs over the case is simple. Were these companies just private businesses, or were they part of a larger mechanism connected to the Cuban regime? That is what the authorities will have to prove in court. Being the sister of a powerful leader alone may not be enough to support everything, but the White House and Rubio seem to bet that the whole picture shows something bigger: family ties, assets, businesses, and closeness to the elite that controls Cuba's economy. The immigration lawyer heard in the debate explained that the Secretary of State can revoke a permanent residency. That means Hades is not just facing an ordinary arrest. She enters a legal and political dispute in which the American government will have to justify why her stay in American territory threatens national interests. The family's defense tries to frame the case as an abuse of power and a lack of clear explanation. Ernesto says that he works, pays taxes, and believed he was living in a nation where institutions are respected. But Washington is approaching the episode from a different angle, not as a domestic problem of a Cuban family in Miami, but as part of an offensive against the structure that keeps the Cuban regime standing. The arrest came right after new American sanctions against the Cuban military regime and its economic operators. At the beginning of May, the State Department announced measures against figures linked to Geisa, including Ania Guillermina Lastres Morera. The official justification was to cut off access to illicit assets and put pressure on the military elite, who, according to Washington, use strategic sectors to get rich while the population suffers. The timing also increases the political weight of the action. On May 20th, 2026, American authorities announced charges in Miami against Raul Castro and others involved in the downing of planes. From the Group Brothers to the rescue, in 1996, an episode in which 4 people died. The next day, the sister of the head of Geisa was arrested. For the Cuban regime, this sounds like a siege. For Rubio, it sounds like a message. The days when allies of the Cuban system could move around freely while the island was sinking are over. The difference now is that the pressure has moved from rhetoric to personal, immigration, and financial fronts. The White House uses this episode to reinforce a straightforward political argument. The Cuban crisis is not about a lack of money. It's the capture of money by a military elite. Rubio has been saying that Cubans live with blackouts and shortages, while Geisa controls wealth, hotels, banks, remittances, and strategic businesses. This narrative resonates with the Cuban-American base in Florida and puts pressure on Havana at a sensitive point: the elite's finances. The takeaway is grim for Havana. A woman connected by blood to the economic and military elite of the island was detained on American soil. Her family had to come forward publicly, and Marco Rubio cast the case as part of the fight against the wealth, privileges, and international protection of the Cuban communist elite. I'm Milson Alves, global and internationalist, and my purpose is to keep you well informed with the truth every day. The news links are in the video description. Leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and at the end, check out the comments so you can be even more engaged with the Milson Alves community. Until next time.